Okay, I've put my hands on every one of the new iPhones. Ask me anything.
Hey, me too.
Oh, okay. Guess you don't need to ask me anything then.
I mean, so I went to the AT&T store while I was waiting to pick up food last night.
Okay.
And I kind of put my hand. So they had the anti-theft things on them to the point that like you couldn't get good hand feel.
Oh, okay. Well, so we went to the Chestnut Street Apple store yesterday.
Oh, bougie.
In the midst of, yes, dude, don't get me started on that Apple store. Have I talked about it before?
I just don't like Chestnut Street at all. Like look,
I have an extreme love-hate relationship with the marina in San Francisco. Like there is some really nice, fun stuff in the marina.
I don't like Chestnut Street.
The vibes of that area are not to my taste.
Look,
let's say.
Some of my good friends who I went to college with used to like going to a bar out there to watch Tennessee football games.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes it was great. Sometimes it just absolutely sucked. So I'm glad we don't go there anymore. Anyway.
I had the worst probably the worst retail experience of my life at that Apple store on Chestnut Street.
For folks who don't know, I don't know what's the marina is kind of like it's like posh, but for 26-year-olds.
Yes, it is the bougiest, poshest part of San Francisco. It's like the extreme,
really.
like well, yeah, it's like high-end shopping district though.
But like the high-end shopping district's like Pacific Heights or something like that.
Okay.
Like that's where the actual rich people is. This is where the people who think they're really rich but aren't probably live.
Like a lot of finance bros in the marina, let's say.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Anyway,
I had way better time at that Apple store yesterday, to their credit. But I don't think I've ever been to an Apple store on iPhone launch day.
That's the one that I used to go to pick up stuff when we would, before they closed the loophole. Because like in the early tested days, you could call your Apple business guy and he would hold shit for you. And then you just go skip the line, go straight in, get your stuff from them. And then they were like, oh, we got to stop this because people are abusing this to, not have to wait in the line. But I used to shout out to Mike at the Chestnut Street Apple store 15 years ago because he got us like 4 iPads on launch day.
Thanks, Mike.
Anyway.
Line was still way down the block at 3:00 when we got there in the afternoon, but then we just went right in to browse. So I also saw like the new watches and the new AirPods and stuff, but their anti-theft stuff is minimal enough that I could just hold the phones. Tiny little disc on the back, but otherwise I kind of got good hand feel on each one.
Okay. Where you at?
That air might be too thin. I don't know.
I picked it up. I took a picture of my kid. I airdropped the picture of my kid to myself, and then I deleted the picture of my kid from the phone. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is a pretty good size for me.
Yeah, kind of sure. I mean, it's a nice, sturdy, large phone. I mean, screen real estate size, it's quite large.
Yeah, I didn't buy any phones this year. I've held off to date. So
yeah, even the 16E was a substantial upgrade over what I have, let's say. Size wise, everything about it. I can't believe how light iPhones are now. Like I've still got, I've got an SE3, which is the 6th design.
Yeah.
And this thing is pretty small and still heavier than any of those new phones that have way bigger screens than this.
Well, so it's weird because for a while they got really beefy when they were doing stainless steel frames and got real heavy, like the 10 from the 10 to the 15, I guess, or 15 is when they switched to titanium. And now the titanium one feels pretty heavy. And I don't know, like it's weird. The fun thing was I went in with my daughter who is now 12 and she was like, oh, I want to look at iPads, Dad. And I was like, okay, you can look at iPads. We're absolutely not buying an iPad at the AT&T store because it's the worst possible place to do that. And she's like, whatever. Okay. She's like, wait, is this thing really $1,200? And I was like, yes, this is really $1,200. She's like, I thought that they were like $400. And I was like, ooh. Well, I have bad news. They used to be $1,000 and now they're $1,200 because of elections and people made bad choices.
Someone is gaining perspective on the value of money.
Yes, we're learning a lot. But yeah, so I took a couple pictures with the Air because the thing I'm curious about is the zoom and what those dual lenses are like. Because my phone, I think, has one dual lens maybe, but I can't even remember because I'm on a 15 Pro. I think they introduced that the next year. I am curious. I looked at some reviews and I was like, I'm gonna wait until I can go to the Apple store and spend some quality time with this thing and then make a decision.
They're out there.
But like the place I'm at is my 15 Pro. The trade in on it is going to basically evaporate over the next year. Yeah, because it'll be $250 next year.
Right. Oh wow, that's still pretty substantial to me. I think my SE, they dropped the trade in value on the SE like profoundly in the last few months. Mm-hmm. I think I would maybe get $100 for mine now, to the point that I would actually probably rather keep it as a backup phone just in case. at that point. But
I think mine's $550 now if I do through them, and the carriers will give me $1,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the carriers want a 3-year contract on a phone trade-in, which I'm not going to do. Anyway, phones. Yep. Hey. I want to talk about the real technology, the real hot business.
What's that?
Well, we went to the last flea market of the year last weekend.
That's true. We did.
Yeah. We trucked down to Saratoga, California. I bought another CRT. I think I opened the season and closed the season by buying CRTs this year.
That'll happen at the flea market.
I'm not allowed to buy any more CRTs.
That was the first message that came back in the group chat, I think, after everybody got to their respective homes from the flea market was, I have been informed this is the last CRT.
Like super duper, I am not buying any more CRTs, no matter what a good deal they are. But this is a 1993 model 20-inch Trinitron. It has S-Video. It's real good, Brad.
I'm sighing here because when we first saw it, I immediately thought, man, I should buy that CRT. And then I kind of held off. And then you expressed interest. And the more I thought about it, the more I wish I had bought it.
Well, so what's funny is I had the same conversation with Adam, who was there with his wife, Adam from PC World, friend of the show. And he was like, as soon as they got in the car, as they were leaving, his wife was like, under no circumstances are you allowed to buy that CRT from, like, if this is a backdoor effort to get another CRT into our house, that's a hard no from me.
Yeah.
And I was like, but okay, so I bought that little RCA, the like 10-inch, 13-inch, 12-inch, whatever it is, the baby one, the start of the year. And it turns out I love it for nostalgia reasons, but it is not a good CRT.
I mean, being limited to RFN only is constricting, let's say.
And it has the good analog knobs that make the great sound and ka-chunk and all that when you turn them. But one of the knobs, the main one that you use to change the RF channels that you use to dial in the thing, it's a little hinky. So
now that just sounds like a knob replacement project in the works.
Well, so I looked at that and getting the right switch, because it's a 2-stage, it's got like an inner dial that turns to dial it in. And then it's got the 13-step outer knob.
Very familiar with those.
Yeah, you have to find a donor TV that's the right TV model to replace it.
That is hardly an off-the-shelf knob.
Yeah, the fix if you don't have a donor TV is take the switch all the way apart, clean all the contacts with contact cleaner, and then reassemble it. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I don't think I care that much.
Yeah, well, hey, what if you just bought a newer TV instead?
That, it turns out it has buttons on the front. It has 2 S-Video inputs, and you can RGB mod it if you want, but I think I'm not going to bother.
It's 20 inches, such a great size, because it's still it's not quite portable, but it's compact enough, and it's got S-Video, and man, I should have bought that TV.
It's human manageable. So my wife, who I love dearly, pointed out that I have a 20-inch Sharp in the storage unit aging for the last 20 years.
Right.
That I've put probably $20,000 worth of storage money into at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're looking, let me know.
For the Sony or the Sharp?
For the Sharp. I'm not selling the Sony. Sony's nice.
Well, hey, it's a $20,000 TV. How could I say no?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bargain. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Hello.
We also buried the important thing, which is that you made your first trip to Micro Center after that trip to the flea market.
We went to, Micro Center's pretty cool.
Micro Center's nice, huh?
Micro Center's not bad. The day after, I realized 2 or 3 little things that I could have picked up there that would have been nice to have.
That is the problem with going to Micro Center, yeah. But no, we went around. We just kind of walked around the store. I don't think anybody, maybe one person bought some stuff, but I think we mostly were just touristing and appreciating the filament wall and looking at 3D printers and TVs and monitors and all that stuff.
I became acquainted with ASUS's business line of motherboards.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think I might have seen those before. ASUS has all kinds of stuff. They've got the ProArt ones, which are kind of creator oriented. They've got workstation motherboards that are serious. That's what I've got in my NAS.
Mm-hmm.
But they have these quote unquote business motherboards that have green PCBs.
Really? I missed that.
Straight up. So just Google ASUS business motherboard. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But It just looks like a motherboard from the mid-90s. Like it's just a classic green PCB.
The Creator ones have Thunderbolt and more USB 3.3 and 3.2 ports usually. They don't have USB 2 ports on the back generally.
Yeah, and usually like an extra Ethernet port, like an extra 10 gig port or something. The business motherboards, the Intel ones I was looking at used a different chipset, which I could not puzzle out the nature of. It was instead of a Z, it was a Q. Trying to
probably just means like less memory support and stuff like that. You probably can't do overclocked memory.
Yeah, Q870 is the chipset on this business motherboard. As opposed to
business
like
time, Brad.
Z890, I think, is the Arrow Lake, the high-end Arrow Lake one. Anyway, parts, just fun to walk into a giant retail store full of computer parts.
I will tell you my favorite thing about that is how aggressively they help people. And like you actually get knowledgeable people helping you. Like you go up to the BYO computer area, build your own, not bring your own. And they like will walk through the cabinets with you, pulling out CPUs and RAM and SSDs and motherboards and all that stuff. So you make sure that you get stuff that works with everything and like make good decisions. And they're like, last time I was there, I eavesdropped on them to make sure that they were giving good advice. And like, they were taking what people said, hey, I want Intel. They'd give them the alternative and be like, hey, this is the little bit more performant, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd help them make good decisions, which was really cool.
Yeah. Sold out of 9800 X3Ds.
Yeah.
I think every other processor SKU on both sides was there except that one.
AMD said last week that they're making those as fast as they can, and they just nonstop sell out.
Yeah, I believe it.
There were video cards. Like there were 9070 XTs, there were 5090s, there were 5080s.
Yeah.
Like you could get more or less retail price.
In some cases.
Well,
I guess actually some of the ones that are marked up are the kind of classic overclocked. You know, hey, here's the higher bend version that we factory overclocked, and we're going to charge $300 more.
Yeah, I think the cheapest 5090 I saw was $2,400, which was when I looked it up, it's their stated MSRP for that particular card.
Okay.
So bigger, cooler, or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, what are we going to talk about this week, Brad? What do we got?
PCs, actually.
The personal computer.
I've been somewhat off work this week and have been doing a lot of PC tinkering myself, and I think you've got some stuff also.
Yeah, my Linux project is ongoing. I finally put Cashy back on the desktop PC, and I've settled into my GNOME on the laptop and KDE on the desktop. We talked about the Dual Boot Diaries this week. Sideshow plug.
I think I'm 2 episodes behind now on that. I think. Last time I listened, Adam was about to go to Germany, I think.
So we just posted the follow-up episode to that yesterday.
Okay.
So I think you're probably 4 is the current one, I think, and 5 is next week. So
are you gnoming for the gestures on laptop? Is that the distinction there? Because in my limited experience, GNOME is pretty good with touchpad gestures.
Yeah, so I like the touchpad gestures a lot, and also the default shipping GNOME on Cashy is the full screen one where you gesture up into the kind of launcher / task switcher. That's how
Fedora. That might just be a GNOME setting. I don't even know if that's a distro specific thing, but at a minimum, I can say Fedora also ships that way.
Yeah, it's like you get maximal screen space on the laptop. The only thing I don't like about it is it does a bad job with scaling out of the box. But there's apparently extensions or text edits you can do to get like precise scaling that you want for your because the laptop screen that I use is like 2800 by 1600 or 1400 or something like that. It's a weird resolution. Anyway,
the year of the Linux desktop continues.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and tell you it's way easier than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think years and years of doing like Linux server stuff has made it easier, but it's been fun watching Adam figure this stuff out too. And he's kind of done distro hopping at this point. So anyway, but I have
a new enemy.
Yeah.
Air.
Well, I mean, I told you to put a water cooler in that machine.
Air is my new enemy. But one of the things, okay, I've got a couple of little projects I've been tinkering with the last week or two that we're here to talk about. One of them pertains to fan acoustics and noise. And also the ongoing, drama might be a strong word, but some of the ongoing questions around a lot of the Windows-based hardware monitoring utilities.
The WinRing Zero problem.
Yes, the WinRing Zero problem that has affected FanControl, and you've like a list here of, Razer Synapse, CapFrame X, Open Hardware
MSI
Monitor,
Afterburner,
Open RGB.
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other
HW
programs.
Info, SteelSeries Engine, EVGA, Precision X1. Although I think the newer versions don't have the problem on that. It's wild. Because the thing that happened, for folks who don't know, is that in a recent Windows update, Microsoft started labeling anything that uses. So let me take a step back. WinRing 0 is a low level driver. It's called WinRing 0 because it's the lowest level, kernel level driver that you install to get low level access to things like voltages and fan speeds from a lot of motherboards and BIOSes. It's used by a library called Libre Hardware, which is
Libre Hardware Monitor, I believe.
Well, the monitor is a thing that sits on top of that. Like the DLL is used by a bazillion projects, open source and closed source, to give access to that timing, and they all use that same WinRing 0 driver, which Microsoft has said is insecure and is labeling it as a virus and recommending that people quarantine it now.
It is insecure. Like even the developer of the driver who wrote it like 15 years ago has since come out and basically said, I wish I had not written that. And this vulnerability is real and quite bad.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this. I can't remember. This is the problem with doing two podcasts that are kind of adjacent to each other. We definitely talked about this on the Full Nerd. I think we talked about it here a few weeks ago.
I don't think we have, because this was new to me.
Okay.
Because when that pop-up hit, I got hit by the Defender. Hey, you've got a Trojan on your system. 2 weeks ago now. It's been a little bit. I immediately flipped out and was like, what is going on here? Because I was installing FanControl from Scoop, which is one of the Windows package managers of note. And like there is some amount of relying on the goodwill and vigilance of the community with Scoop or any community-driven package manager that malware doesn't sneak its way into their versions of what they're posting. So my first thought was, oh God, is the Scoop version, like the binary that Scoop is distributing of FanControl, infected? What's going on here? But then like it did not take long just looking at our Discord or GitHub issues or wherever, like people were getting hit with this left and right because what happened was Microsoft finally just decided to start enforcing the Windows Defender definition that identified WinRing 0 as vulnerable. So you could I think you could still just click quarantine button and move on with your life if you wanted, right? Like it's not like they were completely disallowing it, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, if you hit quarantine, then FanControl stops working.
So I'm sorry, quarantine's not the right term. Like it's still like you could hit exception for it.
Yeah, make an exception for it, which is what Microsoft recommended.
Yeah.
Also, as of this morning, FanControl released version 240. Which Remo did it, which is uses Pawn.io.
So this was actually the 239 was the one that came out a couple days before we recorded this, was the first version to do that. I was following GitHub issues around people flipping out over this Windows Defender notification. Yeah. And they were already talking at that time about Pawn.io as an alternative driver.
So I installed Pawn.io on version 237, and it's been working fine for me for the last week and a half.
It seems like they'll probably get it where it needs to be. Basically, like here's the note with in the changelog for version 239 of FanControl, migrated to the Pawn.io version of Libre Hardware Monitor. WinRing 0 is no longer shipped with FanControl. This will prompt for the installation of the Pawn.io driver. You may use the software without, but you will not get any motherboard sensors. Other sensor sources will still work as usual. This is a whole new driver implementation. It will contain bugs and require community efforts to iron them out. So like they are making, at least in FanControl's case, they are making the transition away pretty promptly away from this vulnerable driver, but it sounds like there will maybe potentially be edge cases that could cause issues anyway.
I think this is a larger part of Microsoft getting control of the kernel level software.
Yeah, which they need to do. I mean, like, it's like it's been a long time since the Wild West era of Windows XP, and anything goes for anything that anybody wants to write for the OS.
Well, but at the same time, it's like the Windows Defender is a pretty blunt cudgel, for lack of a better term. Like this is the way they did this, and popping up these error messages for a bazillion people for just to be clear, for hardware that ships with your video card or with your mouse or with your, like the HW info is bundled with motherboards in a lot of cases. Like ASUS will install HW info if you do the full install suite on a lot of motherboards. So it's pretty wild that they decided to label these as a Trojan without any kind of like supplemental information aside from, hey, there's a knowledge base article here that explains what's going on. That's kind of impenetrable to anybody but nerds.
Yeah, I don't know if Defender is architected in such a way that it can point you to information when it flags something. I guess it is. I don't remember seeing anything like that.
It had to read more on mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this needed to be done at some point. I don't know.
Yeah.
If this was the best way to go about it. I mean, if anything, then to some extent, this may have been somewhat counterproductive to trigger it this way, because a lot of people in the issues on GitHub for FanControl were recommending, like, hey, just make an exception and move on. Like, it's just a false positive. Like, that was actually, that's the dangerous narrative there is, hey, it's just a false positive, just allow it and move on, because it's not actually. Like, well, a lot of people look at something like this and they're like, oh no, this can't be an actual threat. I should just allow this and leave it as is.
So for what it's worth, I've been using the Pawn.io version of FanControl for the last week or week and a half at this point, and it's been fine. But I have a relatively simple setup.
Enough people use that software that I'm sure it will probably get hammered into shape relatively quickly. But this all actually just prompted my hand, because I had been meaning to move off of FanControl for a while anyway, because FanControl doesn't exist for Linux. And so it's not like you could just export your FanControl config from Windows and apply it to the Linux version, because that doesn't exist.
No, but so I had the same problem, and I solved it by going to the UEFI fan setup and just hitting the quiet preset.
Okay, sure. That's one way to do it.
Problem solved.
That is absolutely one way to do it. I mean, especially if you're on an AIO, and whatever whatever fan profile on the BIOS or the UEFI you're hitting is somewhat aware of.
Nope, they're never aware of the liquid temperature. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully it's like tuned well enough to work with an AIO that you won't run into trouble. But also AIOs are very efficient, right?
Yeah. So the problem I have is that I don't want what the PC sees as the CPU fans, which are the 3 fans on the front of the AIO, spinning up and down with the CPU temperature, right? Yeah. I want them to spin up and down with the liquid temperature. And it turns out it was confused. It was difficult to solve that problem. Like there are very few AIOs. It's something I've been testing for PC World is basically we have a big wall of AIOs, and I've been popping them open and plugging them in to see if any of them report the temperature to the BIOS in a meaningful way. Like I would love if some of them use the thermistor header on motherboards, because almost all high-end motherboards have a thermistor header, and I would totally run the wire to plug that in if that was an option. But nobody does that.
That's weird. That seems like that should have caught up by now.
Well, you would think so some of them just don't track that number at all. Like especially cheaper AIOs, like low end Cooler Master and Corsair AIOs just don't track the temperature. Some of them will report it into their Windows software and let you set up fan curves in like Armory Crate, or I can't remember what the Corsair tool is called, H something or other. But very few of them will let you do it at a BIOS level. So the solution is you get the thermistor out of your motherboard and you get a piece of Kapton tape and some thermal grease, and you jam it either on the radiator or near on the metal in the AIO area, like under the plate, hopefully where you won't crush it when you put the CPU on, but where it's coming in contact with metal. And you put the thermal grease on to get good heat transfer between the surface and the thermistor. It's not great.
That seems like a pain.
It should not be this difficult. This should be an easier problem to solve.
Yes. So I actually spent a hot minute looking at AIOs and thinking maybe it's time. Maybe I should just do this and get around the issue that I have with my Noctua tower cooler. Then I stumbled upon a forbidden knowledge. So the reason that I use FanControl in Windows beyond the normal reasons people use it is that I've had this weird issue I've got a DH15.
Okay.
I'm sorry, D15, NHD15. It's the granddaddy of Noctuas.
Is this the big tall?
Yes,
it's like 2 heat towers with a fan in between, and another one on the outside.
It's the big one. It's the one that Noctua kind of made their name on as being like, hey, this was the best one on the market. And I think
this is $130 AI air cooler.
It is significant.
Wow.
I have a big case. I have a lot of room.
Okay,
to put a big cool. Also, I have like the hottest CPU on the market.
Yeah, I mean, you are running the GOAT.
It's a 14900K. It needs the cooling. Trust me.
I mean, technically, I think you're not supposed to put air coolers on 14900Ks.
Yes, actually, not to run it at full tilt. Absolutely. Like I looked up the specs, and I think this thing's rated to dissipate 185 watts.
Yeah,
and that CPU goes up to like 250.
Yeah, but if you don't, that's like if you do the overclocking stuff. Anyway,
well, not even. I mean, that's the out of the box overclocking.
253, I think, is the stock for that.
That's right. Anyway, guess who went into their UEFI and power limited their 14900K?
Wow,
down 285 watts.
You should have gotten a 14700K at that point.
Well, it's 4 extra cores.
Okay, fair.
Anyway, the whole reason that I was really attached to FanControl is that I've had this infuriating acoustic issue with this cooler ever since I got it.
Yep.
And like I said, I was Googling around AIOs thinking maybe I like this cooler. It performs really well, but I cannot abide this noise. I actually meant to install a guitar tuner app on my phone before we did this and tell you what note my cooler produces.
Okay.
Because like it's
it makes that loud a noise?
Well, I mean, it is extremely noticeable when the fans ramp up on this thing. Like boy. The bigger point is if I had installed the tuner, I could have told you that it's like an A sharp or whatever it is. It's like, it is a very consistent, steady tone with a specific pitch that I promise you is like
just gets into your brain,
probably in the like 450 hertz range or something like that. Like an A or A sharp. I don't know, and we're going to get into some guitar tuning stuff here in a minute when I finally figured out what was going on here. Noctua, in their infinite competency, because Noctua is one of those companies that like goes so far above and beyond and like making adapters for things, publishing more information than you ever thought you needed about their products, on and on.
Big giant nerds.
Yes, they are like metal and thermal and acoustic nerds like you would not believe. I landed on a page entitled Fan Speed Offset, Beat Frequency Theory and How to Further Optimize Acoustics.
Oh my God.
And so I figured out what's going on here because, again, if you look at that cooler, it's two towers, right? And I've got a fan on each one. And it also happens to be pointed right at the exhaust fan out the back of the case.
Oh, so it intakes the front side of the case and it's blowing out toward the exhaust fan on the back? Yeah,
so these two fans on the coolers are, one fan is blowing directly into the intake of the next fan, like, I don't know, 3 inches away from it.
Through the fins of a radiator.
Right. And then like 5 or 6 fans. Well, no, but it's specifically the interaction of the air currents that's causing this. And then there's the exhaust fan for the overall case is roughly about the exact same height, like, I don't know, 6 inches or less maybe away from the second fan on the cooler. Have you ever tuned a guitar by ear before?
Yeah.
My
dog has fleas.
Are you familiar with the beats? Well, no, I mean, using the 2-string method.
No, never done that before.
No, so I smacked myself in the forehead when I found this page because I learned 25 years ago you can tune a guitar by playing the same note on 2 adjacent strings and listening for the beats interaction between.
Oh, wow. So you just go like two frets down on the low string?
So it's like the 5th fret, except for I forget which string it is. Other than one string, it's if you play the 5th fret on the lower string, it'll produce the same note as the open note on the next. And so you play those 2 strings simultaneously, and if they're off a little bit, if they're very close but off a little bit, you'll hear like an oscillating tone to the sound.
The harmonics they make higher peaks and troughs, right, on the waves.
So there are a bunch of like, what's the term? Like a bunch of waveforms basically on this Noctua page if you really want to see graphed out how these different frequencies interact with each other. But again, like I slapped myself in the head when I found this because, again, I knew about this phenomenon through guitar tuning and never even considered that it might also apply to computer fans that are adjacent to each other.
You know what else is weird?
What's that?
It also applies to jet engines, turbojets, and rockets and shit like that.
Like I said, air is the enemy. It's all over the place. It's everywhere around us. You can't see it, but it's there, annoying you subtly. Anyway, this was a huge revelation, and basically, sure enough, I went into the UEFI as I was trying to tweak speeds to get them close to my FanControl profile, and all I had to do was offset each one of those 3 fans by 75 or 100 RPM.
So, okay.
And the whole problem went away, like, magically, instantly, and I was, like, so happy, I can't even tell you.
Does Noctua not do that automatically? Like, most of the twin tower coolers ship with 2 different RPM fans.
So
in my
experience. Don't know, in the right at the top of this, I'll put this beat frequency theory page that they publish in the show notes, but right at the top it says their newer models. The 2 fans contained in the blah blah blah, NF A12 G2 blah blah blah, are slightly offset in speed in order to avoid such phenomena. with one running about 50 RPM slower and one about 50 RPM faster in the case of the NFA 12, blah, blah, blah. Like they have now accounted for this, but they did not at the time initial. Although part of the problem also is that I had both fans running into the CPU and CPU opt headers.
Which CPU opt is usually an exact mirror of the CPU.
Yes, they actually just use the exact same fan settings. So they were running at exactly the same speed, except that they're never exactly the same speed. If you watch the readout on the fans, you'll always see them kind of within 25 RPM of each other up and down subtly. And that's what was generating this tone. Like the white noise of a fan, to be clear, is fine. Like that's expected. It was specifically this tone, this droning pitch sound that was always there.
Was it the two fans on the coolers, or was it the fans on the coolers and the rear fan?
I never quite figured that out. I just offset all of them. So I had to move the other CPU cooler one to one of the AIO pump header basically on the motherboard.
So you could change the speed
to give me independent control of that fan. But yeah, so I basically once I had that, I just went in there and again offset each one by like 5% or whatever, and that was enough to basically make them never spin close enough to the same speeds to cause this noise again.
That is absolutely wild.
It was a nice moment because, like I said, I was thinking about like moving to an AIO or something because I just did not know what was causing this.
So I've never had that happen when you're going like when there's usually in my experience that happens when there's like I used to have a big Cooler Master cooler, a V8, I think, that had a shroud around the tower and it had fans on either side. And you could make that happen if you did exactly the thing you said. If the fans were running more or less the same speed, you'd get you'd get a whistle or a womp 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 womp, which was worse. And you solve that problem by making the intake faster than the slower than the middle one or something. I can't remember. You had to basically make a vacuum. But like I never had them interact outside of that tower cooler. Like once usually they have to be pretty close to each other for it to be an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe for all I know, it was all three fans interacting with each other because it was extremely loud on mine. And also, as the fans ramped up and down, it would start and stop all the time, which is the thing that really drives you insane. Because if something is super consistent, you just get used to it eventually. But it's when it comes and goes constantly is when it really stands out.
But you haven't solved your Linux problem yet, which is you don't have FanControl in Linux.
So I did basically what you said, which was I literally dumped the JSON file from my FanControl profile and just eyeballed that on my phone while I was in the UEFI trying to recreate the curves. And I'm on a pretty high end ASUS motherboard, and even still, the FanControl in the UEFI is just god awful compared to something like actual FanControl. I mean, in Windows, like you can basically get there, but just working with it is such a chore.
The thing that's really nice about FanControl is that, like I said, I have a thermistor coming off of the thermistor header on my motherboard that's taped up into the radiator. And I know that the radiator temperature and the liquid temperature have about a 7-degree offset. It varies from like 5 degrees at the low end where it doesn't matter to 8 degrees on the high end when the water is really hot and it's running at full bore for a while. And so I just set an offset. I create a fake sensor that's the sensor for the thermistor plus 8 degrees.
Okay.
And then I build my curves off of that.
It lets you do that. It lets you define this as, hey, add 8 degrees to this at all times.
Just add 8 degrees. Yeah. You can do things like make a curve that fan speed is based on that is a 20% offset off of another curve. So like, I know that my back fan needs to work harder. My back exhaust fan needs to work harder if the radiators spin up. So I have a sink fan for the back that's just 20% faster. It's the radiator spin speed plus 20%. And that ends up exhausting the heat out of the back of the case so that it doesn't heat up the underside of my desk when things are getting hot.
Like the superiority of FanControl in Windows as a way to set fan configs is like unquestionable. I mean, you can't overstate how much better it is than what's in the UEFI. But like I said, even if it hadn't been for this WinRing 0 thing, which isn't even really an issue now, I still needed something cross OS that was going to work. So the thing I missed the most from FanControl when I was trying to make this work in the UEFI is the hysteresis settings.
Yeah.
Which basically we've talked about this before, but it's what lets you take like the history into account. Like you can set more nuanced config based on like, hey, only start ramping the fans up at this rate if it's been at this above this temperature for X number of seconds or whatever, right?
Well, yeah,
which eliminates the constant fan spiking up and down, because by default it's just responding to immediate changes in temperature when you would rather they ramp up kind of gradually. You know, like the temperature will spike for a second and go back down, and you don't necessarily need the fans to spike accordingly, but you know, you only want the fans to ramp up when there is prolonged elevated temperature. So the ASUS UEFI that I've got does have some very, very basic hysteresis now, but it's literally just a drop down per fan that's like, wait X number of seconds between 0 and 5 before ramping the fans. So like that helped a little bit, but it's not as good, but
it doesn't let you adjust the rate, right?
Yes,
that's the thing I have.
That's the problem, is it doesn't actually let you adjust the rate. And it's, like I said, it's a fixed between 0 and 5 seconds. You can't go above 5. Like it's very limited, but between that and eliminating this tone that was driving me insane, I think I'm pretty happy with where my fans are at now in a way that works cross platform. Most
of the way there. It's funny. So while we're talking about this, I've been testing some dual CCD weirdness across Linux and Windows this week. Because when we played, I guess did we play Helldivers? Were you there when we played Helldivers?
Yes.
I had to flip the game mode on in the BIOS on the 9950X3D because I was getting really, really gnarly stuttering if there was anything else running on this computer. And since I run OBS on this computer to send Vinny the feed when we play games on Monday with Nextlander, I was getting horrible stuttering when OBS was running, basically. So I went and switched off the second CCD and essentially made my 9950X3D and 9800X3D and rebooted, and everything was great. I had to go back and turn it back on later and jump through some hoops. I ended up having the same problem with Counter-Strike, actually, which is a kind of like, I play Counter-Strike sometimes when I just want to mindlessly shoot things and get yelled at slurs at me. Words are hard right now. Sorry. Mm-hmm. But it was stuttering as well, which I haven't ever seen. And in Windows, I installed both Helldivers and Counter-Strike in Linux, and weirdly, no stuttering,
no issues. Oh, wait, so does Helldivers work in Linux? Because it's got some kind of branded anti-cheat that pops up when you launch it. I assumed that was low level, but maybe not.
It is, but they actively engaged with the community and installed the Linux version of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for them.
So, yeah, like there's a lot of non-Epic, non-Call of Duty games that do anti-cheat have engaged because they want Steam Deck support.
Oh, I just kind of assumed everybody that was doing low-level anti-cheat in Windows just had a zero tolerance, like fuck Linux, we're not going to bother kind of policy. That's encouraging.
The more competitive the game, the more likely they are to have that policy, because explicitly they aren't kernel-level anti-cheat on Linux, right? So presumably you could run Linux in a virtual machine or some bullshit and then hack memory from outside the VM to do your cheating. Helldivers, like, they have anti-cheat in so that, because the problem they had in Helldivers 1 was people would jump into random games, immediately unlock the entire skill tree and tech tree, and like destroy people's progressions, which sucks. That's a terrible experience for the people who have done nothing wrong other than play with randos. So that's why they have anti-cheat. They talked about it when they launched, but they immediately, like it was one of the first patches post-launch, they wanted Steam Deck support. So they flipped on the Linux version of their anti-cheat, which brought it online, and it's been like that way ever since.
That's cool. And so no stuttering in Linux, huh?
No stuttering on Linux.
Interesting.
And so I'm working on figuring out, like, at some point I'll do a video for that for PC World. I don't know exactly what the form for that's going to be. If people have examples of things that stutter on Windows but don't stutter on Linux, I would love to hear about them, with the dual CCD chips especially. Or like, I'm having a hard time repeating it. Actually, is the other problem. It's a little hinky.
I don't know what's crazier to me, the fact that this is still a problem at all on their second gen of dual CCD processors, or the fact that it is not a problem in Linux. No, second, 99 or 7950
was dual CCD too, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, I guess they did have the same problem there, even without the 3D Vcache, right? To a lesser extent.
So it seems like it's a Windows problem. It's weird because Linux just generally seems to do better with scheduling stuff. For example, So I'll often play like a big kind of like a crafting game or something like that. That's just kind of like a game that you play, and then I'll have a TV show or a football game or basketball game or something on in the background on another monitor. And when on the Windows side, when things are under heavy load, like when you're loading a level or it's doing shader compilation or something like that, the video pauses or chunks or drops to a lower resolution or just gets kind of, freezy and janky for a second and then recovers. That doesn't happen on Linux, which is wild. This has just been a feature of Windows for as long as I can remember. And the fact that like you can have that stuff just work on the other side is quite nice.
That's cool. I don't want to get way out over my skis here. This is just kind of a knee-jerk guess based on what you're saying, but I wonder if this is maybe kind of the power of a more open operating system in action, because like the Windows scheduler presumably is, that's entirely closed source and developed at Microsoft, versus Intel and AMD are both very heavy Linux kernel contributors. And like when I first got this Alder Lake and moved to Linux and the Alder Lake was a brand new chip, I was like looking for Intel.com origin contributors on the Linux kernel mailing list, and you would see patches coming through constantly from Intel engineers adding stuff to the kernel scheduling and especially the heterogeneous core stuff, like the performance versus efficiency cores. They spent, I think it was like Linux kernel 5.15 was the first version that had like basic support for the Alder Lake P and E cores, but it was like late into they're still adding it. I think they're still tweaking stuff, but it was like late into the 6.x kernel. You're still making like fairly major changes to that stuff. So like here we have a case of CPU makers maybe more directly having the ability to help massage the performance of their hardware. I don't know. That's just a guess.
So I know from talking to folks at AMD and Intel that the task scheduler, like the thread scheduler stuff in Windows, was hard for them to make changes to, which is one of the reasons that like we saw bad perf on both Intel and AMD chips when they launched last year. Right. I think that some of that stuff has changed. Like right now, I know AMD, when you update chipset drivers, they can write a new thread scheduler into Windows now. I don't know how low level that can go, and I don't know like what the process for that is, but because Microsoft moved really slow on that stuff for a long time, they now have the opportunity to like take that in their own hands. It just seems heavy though. Like I think it's just like looking at the idle memory on my Linux machine on the Linux boot versus the Windows boot. It's just, there's just way more crap running on the Windows machine, I think is the other side of it. Anyway,
I would believe that.
But yeah, more on that on PC World. I'll talk about it here when I figure out how to test it and how to make a video for it.
I need to get back to desktop Linux.
I'm going to tell you, like, I'm really enjoying the cachey stuff. The only thing that doesn't work consistently is Fortnite and Call of Duty. And like it runs really well. I've been surprised at how easy it is.
Well, hey, segue into my other topic.
Yeah, what you got?
I'll probably get back to messing with desktop Linux stuff when I finish with this down the hall backup project, which I'm much closer to finishing. I'm here with an update on the powering hard drives outside of the case off of a separate power supply thing.
I'm looking at the picture of this because you posted a picture on our show notes, and I can see the top of your server case, and I see the Pi KVM with an HDMI in and Ethernet in, I think, and a USB out and Ethernet out.
Yes, well, there are two. Either the second RJ45 or Ethernet cable is the ATX control on the server. Like it plugs into the ATX header on the board, so you can send software power on and reset signals that'll effectively press those buttons for you.
That's awesome.
USB,
and then you have
USB is going to the serial port on the back of the motherboard.
Oh my God.
Because I've got serial console monitoring. I run a screen session.
Wild.
I made a systemd service on the Pi KVM to start a screen session that monitors that serial output on the server. Because, hey, if the video dies on the server, I've still got text-based insight into what it's doing. And that has saved my ass at least a couple times.
Are you using onboard video for the server?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Yes.
You don't have a discrete video card.
There's no GPU in that, or there's no graphics card in that machine.
Okay, so then I was going to say there's 4, looks like 20 terabyte Western Digital hard drives in what looks like a little plastic rack.
Those are cool. They're way too expensive for what they are. Those are actually modular. If the drives weren't hooked up right now, I could grab one and show you. But looking at that stack, I might post this photo in the show notes. I should like blur out the serial numbers on the drive, I guess, first. But
yeah,
those are made by a company called Sedna, Sedna, and those are modular. So each one of those drives will lift off and are separate. Like I can pull that stack apart. These are basically just little rubberized feet that screw into the mounting holes on the drives. And they've got little like pegs underneath each one. Like if you look at the top of the 4 feet that are exposed, you can see the little like domed insert. So they're basically made to stack. So you could put those feet on each drive and then they will stack as many. And I bought like a dozen of them. They're way too expensive.
Spinning metal hard drives, I would totally buy some of those Ascendo.
Yeah. Yes.
And then there's a power supply that's plugged into the hard drives, and the ATX power connector is just a stump. It's got that stump. It's got Seasonic calls it a tester. It's not a tester in the sense that it like tests current. It's really just a jump starter. All it is doing is it's a permanent fixture for what you would normally use paper clips for to jump those 2 pins. Yeah. Does it have a resistor on it, or is it just a piece of plastic with a jump over
It looks to just be a plastic 24-pin plastic insert with those 2 pins bridged.
Interesting.
But I assume you need load on the power supply thing was not an issue because I've got these drives plugged in, so those put load on it.
Well, so those will put loads. Yeah, those will put loads on the power supply. They only put loads. I can't remember which voltage the spinning hard drives use, but they'll only put loads on certain rails. But since you're not running electronics on any of this, it's fine. Like the stuff that you're running isn't. So there's a lot of FUD about this from the old days when old power supplies didn't have resistors, like they didn't have current protection, basically.
Sure.
So if you left a power supply, an old, when I say old, I mean like early 2000s, late 90s power supply on with no draw on it, with nothing pulling current on it, it would eventually burn out. At least one rail and sometimes multiples. Most of them have internal resistors that will make sure that there's some draw so that they provide proper voltages on the right rails for even if you're not putting draw on one particular rail or not. So it shouldn't be a problem with any modern power supply or even like old decent power supplies.
Cool. Well, indeed, there has been no problem here. There are 2 things that I want to get into with this. First, I'll get the housekeeping out of the way first of just generally how this went. Went totally fine.
Okay.
The tip I got from a couple of people on the Discord last week who also do stuff like this was to turn the external power supply on first.
Yeah.
To let the external hard drive spin up and then turn the machine on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're done, do the inverse, shut the machine down first, and then and interestingly, in my case, I guess this is like modern SATA spec or whatever. Interestingly, the hard drives that are off the external power supply spun down when I shut down the machine, but before I turned off the external power supply. So
yeah, think about it. I mean, basically what you're doing, if you've ever used eSATA drives, it's the same process, right? You typically turn on the external drive first, and then you want the machine to boot up. You can do it the other way on eSATA. On this, if your BIOS is set to allow hot plug, or your card is set to allow hot plug, you could plug these in live. It just seems like it's not worth the risk.
So
on a $400 hard drive or $300 hard drive.
You say that.
Yeah. Here we go.
And then I took the risk.
Yeah.
And it was totally fine. So I had gone in and set all 4 of those ports hot pluggable. I've got, I said, I've got an ASUS workstation board in this machine.
Mm-hmm.
And those boards come with a slim SAS header, which I had never heard of before, but it's a single header that can be broken out into different types of drive interfaces. And one of those is you can get a cable that is a single slim SAS connector to 4 SATA.
Oh.
So I actually bought a 3-foot slim SAS to 4 SATA header cable, plugged it into that slim SAS header, and that's what's coming out the back of my machine into these 4 drives. Anyway.
Okay, so you're fine with that adapter, but when I said, hey, why don't you just buy some SATA hard drive power connectors, splitters?
Multiple things here. Number 1, that's not an adapter, that's just a cable.
Okay.
On both ends. Number 2, I sent you this photo so you could see why I can't just get splitters.
I mean, you could have.
You see how much clearance there is. There's less than an inch of clearance on either side of this machine. And for a transfer that's going to take days, I did not want to pull this machine all the way out into the middle of the floor and have drives hanging out the side of it because the splitters are not very long.
I get it.
When I had this extra power supply sitting around and was able to do this very tidy situation where the machine is back in the corner where it normally lives.
You just need to daisy chain those splitters.
This is days of transfer back and forth.
Yeah, I get it.
And so I just wanted a nice clean setup where the machine normally lives and didn't have to run a bunch of longer cables.
I was going to say, for folks who haven't followed this saga, the whole point of this is you're making a dupe of your ZFS file system.
I effectively need to seed the initial backup to these drives over the fastest possible connection, because otherwise I tried this a few months ago and it took like 4 days.
Yeah.
Over that crappy enclosure that I bought, which that enclosure is perfectly fine on a gigabit network connection, but for like the full initial backup, it's way too slow. It's just going to take forever. And sure enough, I tested this out. I've done some tests with it, and it was like overnight, basically, like less than 24 hours as opposed to like 4 days.
So you could use the extenders.
Well, but again, look, this is working extremely well. But the hot plug worked is the thing I was going to say. I basically, after one cycle of that, okay, I need to spin these drives up before I turn the machine on. I got sick of doing that.
Oh boy.
And said, let's just give it a try and see if it works. And so at some point I just flipped the extra power supply on midstream while the server was already up and running. Perfectly fine. Spun the drives up. Okay. Had the kernel log in Linux up. Watched all 4 drives just enumerate as soon as they spun up, and everything worked perfectly fine. And I was off to the races.
The thing I will say is, we were talking about the Seasonic tester. If you have power supplies die a lot, if you do any kind of computer maintenance at all, buying one of those $20, I want to say thermal Kingwin makes the one that I have. It's like $17, and you plug it in. It tells you what the rails are getting for whatever you plug in. You can plug in SATA connector. You can plug in Molex. You can plug in an ATX 24 pin. Is incredibly useful.
Will that show the actual like voltage and current that you're getting out of there?
Mm-hmm. It tells you what the -12, what the +12, like down to the 1 decimal. So like,
wow.
If your 5-volt rail is sagging, then it'll tell you that, which is great.
That seems very handy. Yeah, like I keep saying tester because that's how the Seasonic manual refers to this thing, but it's really just kind of a jumper.
Well, it's a tester in that if you plug that thing in and hit the button on the back of the power supply, it should turn on.
Yeah, it'll spin up. It'll spin the fan and turn the power supply on to see if it at least works. Anyway, this is all just a prelude to the thing I'm actually excited about here.
Yeah,
which is these are shucked drives. That's why I have 4 of them, because sometimes external drives go on extremely deep sales. Shucks.top. We've talked about it before. If you want cheap hard drives, go to shucks.top and keep an eye on the sales.
You saw that they got Amazon, right?
No.
So you have to click Amazon shut down price API access because they don't let you do price tracking, and the last decent price time broke their rules, apparently.
Oh, no. It looks like, is Newegg the same? I haven't been here in a little while. They don't have prices from Amazon or Newegg anymore.
I got to check both of them now. It's a bummer.
Well, anyway, it's a pretty killer deal from Best Buy on some 20 terabytes right now. If you're in the market for some hard drives. Anyway, so these drives are the first drives I've bought that have the 3.3 volt problem.
Did you have to do the Captain tape?
So I had previously done the Captain tape, and just to remind people, as best I understand this issue, there is one pin on SATA hard drives that carries a 3.3 volt. Mm-hmm. Signal's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It's the 3.3 volt pin. That's part of the SATA spec. I don't think it's really ever been used for anything, as far as I've read. Like, no manufacturer has really ever used it for anything in particular.
Well, it's been used to screw over people who shuck hard drives.
That seems to be the extent of its usefulness. As I think we've said in the past, if you shuck these drives and attach them to a regular computer's power supply, and they're getting 3.3 volts on that pin, they will refuse to spin up.
Yeah.
And so one of the canonical solutions for this is to use Captain tape over that one pin to prevent it from getting any current, and then they spin up just fine.
You can also cut the 3.3 volt line on your SATA power connector.
That's where we're going. There's a bunch of others. There are a bunch of destructive solutions to this as well. You see a lot of people, you can just take a razor blade and fold up that pin on the SATA connector on the drive and break it off.
Terrifying.
I absolutely would not do that, but you see pictures all over Reddit of people who are like, yeah, I've been doing it for years. It's fine.
I mean,
I don't like destructive solutions personally.
I'm fine like that's going to cause you warranty problems if you ever need to send the drive back.
Definitely that. Although by the time you shut the drive anyway,
I mean, you're probably already in warranty problem territory there.
May have sailed. Although, okay, this is a whole other topic. We'd have to get Kyle Wiens back on the show probably to explore this. I did see some people on Reddit saying that the actual legal precedent, to the extent that legal precedent still matters, is that they can only deny warranty claims if they can prove that the failure of the product is related to the modification you made.
I mean,
like that was the gist of it, was like the kind of warranty stickers on devices that say warranty void if broken have not held up in court.
Those warranty stickers have never actually applied. They're a deterrent, not an actual thing.
Right. And I always thought those were legally binding, but apparently the standard is that unless you broke it yourself and they can prove that, they're supposedly they still have to honor the warranty. Anyway, I've never loved the idea of breaking the pin off the drive, and I've also never loved the idea of snipping a wire off of the power supply, because that's the other option that you just mentioned, is you can cut the 3.3 volt line on the SATA cable coming out of the power supply.
I feel like I have modular power supplies mostly these days, and as a result, I have a buttload of your power supply is scary because your SATA power connectors are a single black cable with like 6 wires in it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be hard to look at that and know which one is the 3.3 volt one without getting out the multimeter. Okay, so not to cut to the chase here, but here is where Seasonic joins the ranks of Noctua and companies that go above and beyond. Very excited about this whole situation. It's less about like partially ruining one SATA cable and more about, I don't like the idea of cutting a line that's supposed to carry voltage. Yeah, like. So I saw people say like, snip the line and then put some hot glue on the end. You'll be fine. Like that does not sit well with me. The right way to do that is not to put a hot glue. It's to put a shrink tube on the end.
Like I'm skittish about cutting a wire that's supposed to be carrying voltage, and you've got the other end of it coming out of the power supply. Okay. Anyway, here's where I got very excited. Shout out to one random ass Reddit comment, like 6 posts deep in a subthread, who was like, instead of cutting the line, why don't you just get that Molex tool and depin the cable in a non-destructive fashion?
Well, I was going to say, like,
and I was like, oh man, tell me more.
Well, yeah, because like those, all it takes to pop the Molex out is like something pointy. I use a pair of jeweler's tweezers.
So I have a YouTube video I will put in the show notes. I got very excited about this. First of all, I didn't realize that's called like a Molex style pin. I know very little. Like
that's the patent. That's the company that made it.
Right. Like the world of like electricity and pinouts and stuff like that is just not my world. I guess I would say I'm more of a software guy if it really came down to it. You're reaching. Do you have a tool?
I sometimes use dental probes. This is one of the reasons I keep dentist tools around, is because the pointy one is really good for getting up. So the way that connector works is there's the pin that is the wire that goes that connects with the other wire on the other end of the connector, has a little flange that's kind of like a little bit spring loaded and pops up.
It's like when you slam it, basically, right? It's like the two little wings or tabs that stick out.
Yeah. So you push it past a point and then the pop comes up, and then you can't pull it back because the metal sprung up to get it in place. If you get something pointy and push that thing down and pull the wire out at the same time, it just pops out.
Yeah. So that's what that tool is for. But the Molex branded tool is like $25 plus shipping. Yeah. And it's basically just a giant oversized pair of tweezers. It's just like, it's like a giant set of tweezers with the needle nose parts like perfectly sized and spaced to fit into the kind of shroud or housing of a power supply cable.
So this is where I use jeweler's tweezers. Jeweler's tweezers are they're great for taking out splinters and stuff, but they're really, really insanely pointy tweezers that you would use to like put, 1/2 mil sprockets into a watch or something like that.
Sure.
And they're great for getting there. The only problem with them is that eventually you drop them and then the point gets jacked up and you can't fix this. You just have to buy a new pair. But
so let me do you one better.
Okay.
Because I was Googling around for like trying to find that tool to see where to get it from. And like,
you should have just asked me. I could help with this.
It was, so that wouldn't have solved my problem. It was less than $25, although that's pretty pricey for a thing this specialized, but it was more the having to wait a day or two, because as soon as I keyed into, hey, I can do this, I did not want to wait. You know, it gets sometimes, right? Yeah.
I'm aware of how you get, yes.
Sometimes you've had something that annoys you for long enough and you're like, okay, now I know how to fix this. Now I want to fix this right now and not have to wait 2 days for a delivery. Because the thing I neglected to mention here is that the Captain tape I have found is like extremely not a permanent solution.
Oh, really? Oh, well, yeah. You have to replace it every time you disconnect and reconnect the power on the hard drives.
So that was the revelation, was the first time I did it and then pulled the drives out and then went to go put them back in. I was like, oh God, this tape came off.
The Kapton tape is it is the least destructive, but it is the biggest pain in the ass of all of these things.
Cutting the exact right little strip of tape to put over that one pin made me never, ever, ever want to do that again. And then when I realized I was going to have to do it every single time I move those drives around and put them in something else.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck this. I've got to figure something else out. And that's what started this whole thing. Anyway, I'm going to send you a picture here.
Okay. So I sent you a link to a $6 set of precision tweezers.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll do that. I just sent you a picture of the PSU cable that I depinned the 3.3 volt line from non-destructively.
Yeah.
Because Seasonic posts very explicit, detailed pinout information and cable cross compatibility.
Oh, that's nice.
Matrices for all of their power supplies.
That's really good.
But I did that with 2 staples. So I found I'll put I forget. I should pull up I should say the name of the YouTube channel because this video was so useful. I don't want to just put the link in the show notes, although I will do that as well. Not From Concentrate is the name of the YouTube channel. They've got 87,000 subscribers, but they literally showed, like, they actually went through like some aftermarket Molex depinning tools and were like, yeah, these work fine, but they're expensive and some of them work less fine than others. But what if you could get 2 staples and do the exact same thing? And then he walks through how to do that. Sure enough, I pulled the stapler out of my desk drawer, pulled 2 staples off, bent them into L shapes.
I don't have a stapler anymore, I don't think.
It took about 10 seconds to depin this power supply cable with 2 staples.
I mean,
beautifully.
I'm pretty sure I could use this thing that I used to clean the ear gunk out of my AirPods.
Frankly, but any like 2 tiny pieces of like sharp, thin metal will work, but they need to be pretty specific in size and something you can apply force to. I found the staple method to work extremely well if you have staples on hand.
I highly recommend getting a set of like 2 or 3 precision tweezers. I like having one that's straight and is insanely sharp and really pointy and kind of like the kind of thing that if you drop it on your foot, it's going to embed itself in the top of your foot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also like one that has like a 45-degree bend on the end that's a little bit grippier and a little bit less pointier.
Yeah, I might grab some of these tweezers that you linked me to just because like I bought one of those iFixit style screwdriver sets a couple of years ago that's got the like 800 different screwdriver bits in it, and I have extremely been happy to have that thing on hand more times than I can count. So like,
oh yeah,
having some real tools around is nice, but also the staple method worked extremely well.
Well, so I started using these kinds of screwdrivers. I mean, I started using these. I've always had these screwdrivers because my grandfather liked to repair watches. And like whenever he would dull a pair of tweezers, he would grind them out so they'd be pointy again for pulling out tweezers and then hand them off to us. But yeah, they're like, look, when you have a pair of really pointy tweezers, it turns out everything looks like a tweezer problem.
Yeah, I can see it.
Also highly recommend the dental picks for this kind of stuff. Like you can jam a dental pick into the end of that, into the end of those Molex connectors to push them out. If you can't get, if the cable is such that you can't pull the cable end to get it to release, you can jam one of those in and push it from the other end, and then you can get enough slack usually to pull it loose. Good job on this, Brad. This is a good solve for this.
Thank you. I was extreme. So the figuring out the fan beats acoustic problem and then depinning this cable all happened within the space of like 36 hours or something.
That fan beats thing would have made me crazy.
It drove me insane. Like that's why I used FanControl in Windows, was to control that sound more even than the fans ramping up and down. So like, but it was a strong couple of days of like figuring out how to fix annoying problems with things I had on hand, as opposed to like buying a whole new AIO or ordering some expensive tool or whatever. But now I've got a permanent, non-destructively modded power supply cable that I can use to just spin these hard drives up without ever having to fuck with Kapton tape again. Very pleased with the whole situation.
Well, hold on. Let's not get crazy because the Kapton tape, pretty useful.
It'll probably come in handy for something else, but hopefully not for this.
Let's see. So I don't have any big projects. The Linux thing has eaten a lot of my time lately. I talked about the thermistor on the radiator to get BIOS temperatures for as close to BIOS temperatures for the liquid as you can get. If anybody knows of an AIO that gives you actual liquid temperatures in a way that the motherboard can understand, I would love to hear about it. So please let me know.
I wonder if that's the kind of thing that like it won't necessarily become standardized, but at least we'll start popping up in vendor specific implementations over the next few years. Like that seems so crucial to liquid cooling that is crazy that nobody has tried to build that in yet.
Well, I mean, some of them don't even report it in the apps. Like that's the thing that shocks me. So like I have an older Corsair cooler that was on my daughter's machine. That's just a 120 AIO that just doesn't report temperatures at all, which is wild. I mean, it was also like a $65 AIO probably a decade ago. So that explains it probably, but still, the tacking the thermistor on the side of the radiator and then doing the offset and fan control works pretty well. The other thing I did last week is Willis Lai, who's the producer over at PC World, and I did a build in a rack mount case for the PC World stream machine. Like they have the machine that runs the podcast and the live builds and all the OBS mixing in there. They're an OBS house, and they have a couple of, I think, Blackmagic DeckLink cards that are 4-port HDMI capture cards for like plugging Canon. I mean, we use Canon SLRs for studio cameras over there. And then they also have some other stuff that like an Elgato capture card and some other things. And it was really fun building in the rack mount case. I'm going to go and tell you, I got a little bit of rack fever because
that's awesome, man. They had racks at Micro Center, we should mention, and I also, seeing some racks in person, felt a bit of the fever go on.
Yeah, like so we've had an audio rack for a long time with like the mixer and the compressors and all the power infrastructure and stuff like that for that hardware. But we were having some noise problems, and we decided while Adam was in Germany to just tear the whole thing down and move all the audio stuff to one side of the producer desk and all of the computer and networking and everything else to the other side of the producer's desk. And we're putting a rack in for all the computer stuff, like power supplies and NASs and all that stuff. And it was at the conclusion of that, after we did all the hard work of rewiring, repulling all the cables and everything, is we built in this Silverstone. I think it's an RM46, which is their kind of, it is a rack mount case for like a rack, a computer that goes into a server data center rack, and or also like this kind of use where you have like a studio machine, you want to have something in there.
To be clear, this was not building a new machine. This was rehoming the guts of the existing.
So we're building a new machine just because the machine that they're on, the board, we don't have the TPM 2.0 module to get Windows 11 support on it. It's like a 5950. It's an older AM4 board though. And
man, that doesn't have a TPM 2.0.
It's weird. It's entirely possible we can flip it on, but like we can get a less hot, more core, newer Intel machine.
Yeah. There's a lot of spare hardware in that office.
Yeah. Hardware is never a problem there. And like, if we're going to go to the effort of moving stuff into a new case, we might as well put new hardware in, just so we reset the clock on when that hardware is going to conk out. Right.
Yeah. What's the CPU in the new build?
I think we used a 285 or 265K. I can't remember. Okay. One of the Arrow Lake processors and 32 gigs of RAM. I mean, it doesn't need to be a particularly beefy machine. It runs OBS with like 4 inputs, and we run Zoom on a separate device. So anyway, we built in the rack mount machine. Like, it's the way this rack mount machine is set up is it's like a pizza box. You know, it's an old school 90s looking shape. But on one side, it like on what would normally be the back is actually the front, because on a rack mount, you want all the cables to be accessible from the side that you have access to, right? The side that the rack goes in. And then the back is has room for a 280 AIO. So we put in an Arctic Cooler Freezer 3, I think.
So that's the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 is what I was in for the 5 minutes that I was like, I should get an AIO. That's what I was looking at, because like Gamers Nexus said, that's the one right now.
So it's pretty nice. It requires a
contact frame,
which I don't like.
That's exactly what stopped me when I think that's only true on Intel. I believe on AMD it'll use the standard mounting hardware.
Yeah. So I've used that exact cooler on an AM5 Zen 5 AM4 machine. AM5. I'm completely.
God, now I'm blanking.
Like toast in here.
AMD. No, I'm going to blame AMD for this, because the difference in numbering between their CPU architecture, their CPU sockets.
Yeah, it's AM5.
It's like they've been on Zen 3, AM4, AM5. Like they've been all over the place on numbering in a way that's hard to keep up with.
So I've used it on an AM5 machine before, and it's fine. You basically take out you leave the frame that holds the CPU in place, but you take out the 2 side mount holes and you put these side things. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it's not bad. Yeah. The contact frame sucks.
I don't love that at all. Although I thought the contact frame was just for 13th and 14th gen. Is it also for Arrow Lake?
So Arrow Lake, same, like it's different socket, but it's same physical connector, the same way that AM4 and AM5 are the same physical connector.
So they still require you to use that contact frame.
There's no way to screw it in otherwise.
That might be a deal breaker. I mean, maybe they've accommodated the pressure requirements of the CPU.
It's still scary as hell.
Yeah, because I've replaced contact frames on 2 Intel builds, this 12600K in my server and then the 14900K in my desktop. Server was fine. I've done it on 2 boards and I never had an issue with it. Mm-hmm. It took me the better part of 2 weeks of tinkering with this desktop machine to get the contact frame stable. Like it was not fun at all.
Let me tell you, when I was having the problem with my 13900K and I was talking to Gordon about it, his first thing was, you still have that stupid contact frame on there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, take that off and then call me back. And I was like, I took it off and it still was jacked up. But it's just one more thing to break in a place that you like. The benefit at the level of performance I care about is net nil, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I hated the idea of the CPU warping over time, but also by the time it's really warped, you're probably going to be upgrading anyway. I don't know if it was actually necessary, but it sounds like the good news, it sounds like that they fixed the problem with the Arrow Lake generation. So hopefully this will not be a thing going forward.
I hope so. Yeah. But anyway, so like putting that machine together, putting the 280 AIO in the back exhaust, pushing air through. It's really quiet. It's a really nice little machine. It's funny because it's a server machine, so it has things like intrusion. It has an intrusion sensor.
Cool.
So it didn't have to, but I plugged it in the motherboard because it has a port, and I was like, oh, we're gonna know when somebody opens the case on this bad boy.
Right.
We did the build live on the PC World channel, and there's a couple other things that are kind of cool. It has the option of running the power supply in the front, so you can just jam the power connector into that side, or you can put it out the back if you're doing audio stuff, so that power cable is away from anything that's going to make noise. And there was an option to put an external drive cage in there, but since we store everything on the NAS and it goes across the fast network to it, we didn't bother.
And that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. The one thing that I learned, which was a bummer, because we got the slidable rails for it. And I was like, seems a little hinky, because they pull out, it's 600 millimeter rails basically, but the rails are built for data center depth racks, not home or studio depth racks. So I think our rack is 480 millimeters deep, connected front rail to back rail, where the rails that go with this kind of case that let you slide it out and work on it are almost all 600 millimeters. So they expect a deeper thing that's actually physically bolted onto the floor so it won't tip. Anyway, so we didn't get to use the slidable rails, which is a bummer.
I've never worked with rack stuff before, but I always just assumed it was super standardized. But the more I hear about it, the more it sounds like no, in fact, there are a million different sizing standards, and
whether it's square holes or round holes and M4, M5 or M6 bolts, and
just like everything else in computers, what should be standardized is actually prone to conflicting in 1,000 different ways.
Yep, nothing's standard.
Yeah, still, I when I rebuilt my server on this 12600K a couple years ago, I moved to the Noctua tower cooler that is specifically made for 4U rack cases, just anticipating the day that hopefully I will move the guts of that machine into a rack case.
Well, so
that's where servers belong.
We bought an 18. The rack we bought was, I think, 18 or 24U. I can't remember. So, and there's going to be more than enough room for all the stuff that's in there. I could really easily move my entire stack from the garage out there into a 8U or 10U or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at those were kind of like knee high racks at Micro Center. They were, I don't remember the U's on them. They were 20 or something.
Well, so the 18U works out to be about 4 feet tall, I think, with the wheels on it, with the casters on it.
I think that's about the size of the ones at Micro Center. Like, I know I would never need a 42U. There's just something cool about having it be taller than you.
Well, so the problem with that, though, is that if you actually do fill that up, then you have your weight load on the floor for your house is a problem.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of house I end up in. I'm always thinking in terms of my parents' house, where the basement floor is just cement.
There you go.
Not an issue.
No, the cement floor, totally fine.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I ended up setting up the new CRT with S-Video, and I did some tweaks. I set up on the Mister, I set up the super track mode mod script, cool. Which is really fun. It just, you tell it which cores you want it to pull from, and then it just runs like 5 or 10 minutes of like the attract mode on a game. And they've kind of filtered out like games that have decent attract modes. Oh, that's okay. I should look into that. That sounds fun. It's pretty good. Like, the neat thing about it is if you pick it up and start like playing the game, then it pauses the script until it goes idle again, until the machine goes idle again for a few minutes. So it's like I have a screensaver with all of my childhood consoles on it, which I quite like. I should look into that. That sounds extremely cool. I also, Brad, started playing Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link again. Oh boy. Godspeed to you. I'm going to go and tell you, I did not understand that game as a child. I did not understand how an RPG worked, and that they had put RPG elements in there. Mm-hmm. I also think that somebody told me on Blue Sky that the US version didn't actually let you choose where to apply the upgrades as you earned them. Oh, that's not true. That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah, because you could pick whether you were going to add health or damage or magic, right? Yep, 100%. Yeah. But I didn't. I guarantee you I did not understand how that system worked as a kid, because I'd played like Dragon Warrior, but it was presented just differently enough that like it didn't make sense to me. That game's better than I expected it to be, and it's great with save states. So Zelda, yes, that would help tremendously. Zelda 2 rules, but it is brutally hard. So yeah, save states are kind of a big deal there. Yeah, anytime I walk into a room that looks scary, I hit the save state button and just get ready to cheese the hell out of it. That is the way to be in 2025. Yeah, it's pretty good. But that CRT looks gorgeous. You screwed up by not buying it when you did. What'd you pay $50 for it? $50. God damn. I mean, I did not have room for it in here, to be clear. I have a nice 14-inch CRT in here already. Like, I did not need another one. Well, so the nice thing about it is it's stereo. I'm happy to be happy with what I have. Yeah, so I have stereo now, because my old TV was definitely not stereo. Did it have a remote? I didn't see a remote with it. It did not have a remote, but it has buttons on the front, so I don't care. Okay. Yeah, it has all the buttons you need to control everything. So no RGB mod, huh? I mean, maybe at some point, but I'm pretty happy with the S-Video looks. Yeah, and S-Video is fantastic. Like, I probably also would not bother if I were you. The Trinitron that's from that generation that I have back at my parents' house is composite only. Yeah. And their RGB is perhaps a bit more essential. So I do have a confession to make. I bought a new Saturn. I have that Mr. Add-ons board with the Saturn analog video out port. And that Saturn connector is so fucking hard to get in the right way, like notoriously, because it's not really keyed at all. You have to just line it up. And I fucking immediately broke off one of the pins. Right. When I was putting it in. On the cable or the board? The cable. The board's female. So the board's fine. Okay. The cable, it's like a $12 cable from Amazon, so I don't really care that much. I plugged it in. It worked. So with the broken pin? Yeah, so it has it's like 15 pins or something in there, and some of them apparently are for you can do RGB out of there too if you want. So I guess I lucked out and got one of the ones that's not RGB. Anyway, hey, if it works. Yeah, mistakes are made. I feel like that's the theme of this entire episode is, hey, if it works. I mean, look, maybe that's the theme of computing in 2025. Mm-hmm. That might be just to be the theme of everything, whatever works. Yeah, I love it when it works. I love things that work. Working is great. I also bought. We didn't talk about the book I bought at the flea market. Oh, yes, I assume that's some upcoming PC World content. I think I'm going to take it and do some PC World videos. Yeah, it's the second edition of Assembling and Troubleshooting Microcomputers And the date on the publication page is 1991, which means it predates ATX.
Oh, do I remember the term microcomputer? Like connections are being made in my brain right now because I've been thinking about mini computers a bit recently.
Yeah.
Which are the kind of refrigerator sized era, the PDP-11 and that kind of thing. Those are
I used a Wang when I worked at in Congress on Capitol Hill.
Right. So was the term microcomputer actually in wide usage for the desktop home personal computer for a long time? I'd completely forgotten that.
Yeah, because it's the next size down from a mini computer.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, but it has a bunch of like, here's how to fix your IBM XT and other clones stuff, which is kind of rad.
That's neat.
Anyway, on that note, I guess it's going to do it for us this week.
And that was a smorgasbord of random computer stuff. Hopefully it was enjoyable.
Yeah, look, the fan thing, like the thing that you found out about the Noctua fans is something, it's why I didn't like those tower coolers for a long time.
Yeah. And like clearly they woke up to the same issue because like I said, there's the second gen version of that D15 that I have that just came out last year and it addresses this issue. Like I said, because now they are factory tuning the fans to not be too close together in speed to get around that issue. But I'm very happy I landed on that page from Noctua to solve that issue. I'm very happy that Seasonic had very explicit documentation up for like the pin out of my power supply. They also, because I've had like 4 or maybe 5 Seasonic power supplies between here and working on machines at work, I've just got like a pile of old power supply cables. And it's very nice that they actually put up a giant chart that says, here are all the cables that are compatible with each power supply. Like,
see, I always keep the power supply cables in the bag then I put a piece of paper and then this is which power supply they go with.
So I do that now for the last couple that I've owned, but I had a bunch of older cables as well. Anyway, it's nice to very explicitly be able to confirm, yes, this cable will work with this power supply and not fry the component. But like, just in both cases, like, and again, this is not sponsored at all. I am purely a customer of these two companies, but like, it's just such a nice, heartwarming feeling when they put up the information you need to solve problems and like don't leave you in the dark with poor or no documentation for things.
I was going to say, I buy Corsair power supplies usually. And I was like, for a long time, if you bought inside the same product line, the modular cables were compatible with each other.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing that at some point.
Oh, that sucks.
And but at least they have HX only, like they have the line on them now that says this is only good with this line.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say the other thing about your fan thing is it's the argument in favor of using the fans that come with things. I just learned about the difference between static pressure and airflow fans a few months ago. Static pressure fans usually come with AIOs. They're usually more blades and they move less air, but they apply more pressure to force the air through the radiators.
Yeah. I think on the not to make everything Noctua, it's just mostly what I buy. So it's what I'm familiar with. But I think that's like the split between like the brown and the gray fans, I want to say, on their side. Like some of them are static pressure and some are airflow pressure.
That I don't know about, but yeah, like I used on my Fractal case, the Fractal fans that came with the case with my AIOs because I liked the way they looked. And when I switched to static pressure fans for the same exact thing, I was blown away at the difference in cooling I was getting on the liquid.
Yeah.
So anyway, sometimes like theoretically you should be able to use the splitter on the fans if you buy that same Noctua cooler now, and it sounds fine because they've offset the speeds on those fans. Anyway. That'll do it for us this month, or week rather. Thanks everybody for listening. As always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is a listener supported show. We wouldn't be here without you all. So if you would like to learn how to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that's patreon.com/techpod, where for $5 a month, you get access to the Discord. You can talk to us about Linux. You can talk to us about your fans. You can find out about Brad's weird jump-started power supply.
I should put these pictures in the show notes, or maybe just on the Discord. I don't know. I don't know a good way to host images in the show notes. Like that probably would break some podcast clients unless I just put hard links to some hosting service. Yeah, it's like this is something I would have put on an Imager for a long time and then do a link out to that. But anyway, so for $5 you get access to the monthly patron exclusive episode. You get access to the Discord. It's a lovely community full of people who are into very much the same things that we talk about here every week. They sure are. And if you subscribe for the executive producer tier, then we give you a shout out every week, including
just like we're about to do right now. So thanks to Jason Lee, Infelicitous Rips, Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, Bunny Money, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
And that will do it for us this week. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Tech Pod. As always, please consider the environment before printing this podcast.